I booked a cheap Airbnb for one night. Nothing fancy, just a quiet place outside the city so I could get some work done, but at exactly 2:17 a.m. I woke up to a sound coming from inside the house. At first I thought it was just the pipes, or maybe the wind, but then I heard it again. Slow, deliberate, like footsteps. And that's when I realized something that still makes me sick to think about. I wasn't alone in that Airbnb, and whoever else was inside, they already knew I was there. This happened last fall when I was traveling through a small town in upstate New York. I had a long drive ahead of me the next day, so I booked a cheap Airbnb just to crash for the night. The listing looked normal. Good reviews, quiet neighborhood, nothing suspicious. But sometime after midnight, things started happening that didn't make sense. And by the time I understood what was really going on, it was already too late to leave. It was already getting dark when I arrived. The house was tucked away at the end of a long gravel driveway, surrounded by trees on all sides. No neighbors in sight. That should have been my first warning. But honestly, I didn't think much of it at the time. I just wanted to sleep. The host had left instructions for self-check-in. The key was inside a lockbox near the front door. Everything worked smoothly. No issues. I walked inside, dropped my bag, and did a quick scan of the place. It was small. One bedroom, a bathroom, a living room with an old couch, and a kitchen that looked like no one had used it in weeks. There was a faint smell in the air. Not terrible, just off. Like the house had been closed up for too long. Still, nothing that screamed danger. I locked the door behind me, double-checked the windows, and set my bag down in the bedroom. The silence inside that house was heavy. No traffic. No distant voices, not even the sound of insects, just complete, unnatural quiet. I remember thinking, this place is perfect if you want to disappear. I wish I hadn't thought that. Around 11 p.m., I was lying in bed scrolling through my phone. The Wi-Fi was slow, but it worked. I was just about to fall asleep when I heard something, a soft click. It sounded like it came from somewhere in the house. I sat up for a second, listening. Nothing. I told myself it was probably the heater turning on or something settling. Old houses make noise. I lay back down. A few minutes later, another sound, this time louder, like something shifting in the living room. I felt a small knot form in my chest. But again, I ignored it. Because what else was I supposed to think? There was no one else there, right? I must have fallen asleep eventually, because the next thing I remember was waking up suddenly. My eyes snapped open, and the first thing I saw was the time on my phone, 2:17 a.m. That's when I heard it. A slow creak, followed by what sounded like a footstep. Not random noise, not pipes. A footstep. Inside the house. I held my breath. Every instinct in my body was telling me not to move. The house was completely dark, but I could feel it. That presence. Like someone was out there, just beyond the bedroom door. I listened closely. Another step. Slow. Careful. Like they were trying not to make noise. That's when panic started to set in. Because there was no way anyone should have been inside. I locked the door. I checked the windows. No one had a key. I reached for my phone, trying to stay as quiet as possible. My hands were shaking. I opened the Airbnb app and checked the listing again. Still active, still normal. Then I noticed something strange. There was a message from the host, sent at 2:03 a.m. I hadn't seen it before. I opened it, and my stomach dropped instantly. It said, "Hey, just checking." Did you come alone? I stared at the screen, trying to process it. Why would they ask that? At 2 in the morning? Before I could even respond, I heard it again, this time right outside the bedroom door. A slow movement. Then, a soft scrape, like something brushing against the wall. I froze. My heart was pounding so loud I was sure whoever was outside could hear it. Then the doorknob moved, just slightly. A tiny, slow turn. I jumped up and pressed my body against the door, holding it shut. The knob stopped moving. For a few seconds, there was nothing. Just silence. Then, a faint sound, right on the other side of the door. Breathing, slow, controlled. Someone was standing there, listening. I didn't know what to do. Call the police? Run? Scream? Every option felt wrong, because I didn't know how many people were inside, or where they were, or how long they had been there, after what felt like forever. The footsteps slowly moved away. I waited, not moving, not breathing, just listening. Minutes passed. Nothing. Finally, I grabbed my phone and quietly opened the camera app. I switched it to video and slowly lowered it toward the small gap under the door. I angled it outward, and what I saw still doesn't feel real. There was someone standing in the hallway, bare feet, dirty, facing my door, completely still. I pulled the phone back immediately, my whole body shaking. That's when I realized something even worse. Those weren't the only feet. There was another pair, further back. I wasn't dealing with one person. There were at least 2, maybe more. That's when survival instinct kicked in. I dialed 911, whispered everything. The operator told me to stay quiet and not leave the room. Police were on the way, but I knew something. Out here, in the middle of nowhere. That could take time, and I didn't think I had much time left, because a few seconds later, I heard footsteps again. This time faster, closer. Then something slammed lightly against the door. Not hard, just enough to let me know. They knew I was inside. And then, a voice, right outside, whispering, barely audible, but clear enough. It said, "We know you're awake." At that moment, I genuinely thought I wasn't going to make it out of that house. Police arrived about 12 minutes later. But by the time they got inside, the house was empty. No forced entry, no signs of struggle, nothing, except one thing. In the hallway, right outside the bedroom door, they found a small camera, hidden, pointed directly at the room I was sleeping in. Later, the investigation revealed something disturbing. The Airbnb host didn't actually own the property anymore. The listing had been hijacked months ago, and multiple guests had stayed there, reporting strange noises, but nothing ever proven. To this day, I still think about that message. Did you come alone? Because now I understand what they meant. They weren't asking out of curiosity. They were asking how many people they were dealing with.